Everybody, good evening. Come on in. Come on into the room. Come on in. And as you're coming in to our Success Team Thursday evening team building training, go ahead and put your name in the chat and let us know where you're zooming in from. I love that. When I got started in LegalShield, we didn't have Zoom. We had like a conference call, and at the beginning, Mr. Riches or Mr. Tanner, he used to just let it go and just say, for the first few minutes, just let us know where you're dialing in from. And we had all these people, this cacophony of I'm this person and I'm from there, and we talked over each other and it was just great. So, but we got the Zoom. So go ahead and put your name into the chat and where you are zooming in from. Hey, family, I am so excited about this team building training because, again, it takes me back to when I got started. When I got started a little over 8 years ago, all I had was a desire to get better and a desire to change my finances from where I was at the time to where I could be. And I had a lot of faith. I had faith that what was said in the videos, what I heard on these Thursday calls was true. And what I heard is that you didn't need to have a background in management. You didn't need to have a background in business. You didn't have to have success in sales to be able to dream big and to make some moves and to have success with your LegalShield business. And so that's why I was always tethered to these calls, these Zooms. I never missed a Monday training call. I never missed a Thursday training call. And when I was sick or it was an emergency and I couldn't get on, I listened to playback because every time I did that, something changed in me and something changed in my business. So when something changed in me, I always noticed it in my bank account, or my team grew. So really, it's not that I'm stalling in this with this Zoom, but I want you, those of you that are team building and leaders, go ahead and text your team. I'm going to whisper this because I don't even know if Mr. Tanner wants me to say this, but I used to text my prospects who weren't even LegalShield associates, and I texted them and I said, "This is not an opportunity Zoom, but if you're smart, you need to get in on this training because this is where you're going to learn how to make money." So I'm going to say that maybe Mr. Tanner will text me privately and say, "Don't ever say that again." But I'm saying, because that's what I did. And I got a whole lot of recruits that came who were prospects to the training call. So again, you probably can guess how excited I am. And here's why. We have got Mr. Jim Tanner, and I'm going to introduce him like he's not family. I'm going to introduce because I think sometimes we get used to greatness. When you see greatness and you're around it all the time, you just kind of get used to it. And dare I say, I think some of us might even take what we have for granted here in Success Team. But here's a man that has written 2 books successfully, right? He is a celebrated author on the mindset of being great, of getting things out of the way psychologically that gets you stuck. This is a man that's made over $200,000 in LegalShield. Now he's made way more money investing, and I talked to him privately about his homes and all that stuff and investing. So he knows how to make a lot of money. But here's a man that's made over $200,000 a year. He makes in this business alone, and he's earned more than $1 million in his LegalShield career. And if that's not enough, he has helped more people reach 6 figures. Some have reached the Millionaire Club status. And this is from his tutelage. This is from his guidance. This is from him pouring in to the people in his team. And lastly, I'm going to say that he has helped other people outside of his team, outside of Success Team, because when he travels, ladies and gentlemen, the rooms are packed because his name is quite famous in this space. So he's helped other people who are not even associated with a Success Team to reach those rank advancements and money income. So, without further ado, I am going to introduce a millionaire, Mr. Jim Tanner, a celebrated author and a team builder par excellence. Mr. Tanner, my friend, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
Dr. Corley, thank you so much, folks. I'll tell you what, I appreciate that introduction. I'm excited for it. Sometimes it's been 22 years since I joined this company as a boy, as a young man, certainly not an adult, 28 years old when I got started. Sometimes, even though it's been 22 years on this journey, it's hard to imagine that those accolades are for me. And I mean that sincerely. I know how sometimes, we have this false humility, but I'm telling you, if you'd asked me 22 years ago, would that be the story they told about Jim Tanner? I wouldn't have confidently said yes. So I appreciate that incredible introduction. And Mr. Corley's not going to brag about himself. Dr. Corley, correct myself there. And I'm going to have him back. He's going to be helping me with a segment here tonight in our Performance Club for Life Training. But I just want to say this before I go any further. This is a gentleman that this company, our company, our multi-billion dollar company, our half-century plus year old company, trusts to take the reins over a significant region of the United States. He's in charge of the live events, of mentorship and tutelage. And as a matter of fact, part of his area of responsibility is Tennessee, where you know very well, sir, that we're all coming for our Cookeville event on July 31st and August 1st. I don't have a slide on it tonight because that's not our program tonight, but that is our Cookeville incredible financial freedom boot camp where we're going to be in a room together. This is great. Zoom is great. What's going to happen when there's 100 of us together in that event? And Dr. Corley is going to be really leading up that event on the ground in Cookeville, Tennessee. So I'm excited for that. And you're going to be hearing more from Dr. Corley here in a few minutes. But I want to get into this event tonight because I'm going to be sharing with you some of my story. I'm going to be talking to you about why we're having this event tonight versus, why it might have happened at another time. I've got some folks I also want to mention that are going to be sharing their stories, other business partners that are going to bring their voices in tonight. And also they're helping me let folks in. So I know some of you, it happens, right? You drop the call, you come back in. I see it in the chat right there. Folks that are trying to get let back in. We've got folks that are handling that. We're going to make sure that we do that, but do your best to hang on, stay in with us, and our co-host will help you get back in if you get stuck in the waiting room. But tonight, let's get into this. And by the way, actually, I said let's get into this, but let me just make sure you understand. Typically on Thursday nights, in this space, it's our team building training. But this is a very special event. That's why we've promoted this over the last week and a half. This is a very special event. We are outside of the normal agenda of what we do on Thursday nights. Don't take tonight as a typical Thursday night if this is your first time hanging out with us, because this is not. We're not gonna be talking about website views and guest accounts and the things that we normally track. We're gonna celebrate those next Thursday when we come back together. We're not here to talk about the book of the month. We're not going to be talking about live events that are coming up or our text alert system or any of that. Tonight is purely about this Performance Club program, and there's a reason it's tonight. And also, while we normally are together for 60 minutes, we fully expect to bleed over into the next hour. I don't know how far into the next hour, but this is a presentation that will live on as recorded resource into the future because it is that important. And tonight is not a technical Performance Club training, but we are going to be talking about Performance Club. That's the theme of why we're here. By the way, it's also not a compensation plan training, but I'm going to be showing you the compensation plan tonight. So what is it? Tonight is a conversation. It's a conversation about a habit that has changed my life, changed the lives of a whole bunch of people on this Zoom tonight, and become one of the most important systems inside of LegalShield. So my hope is that some of you decide to qualify for Performance Club for the first time. Tonight you leave here tonight and you say I get it and I'm in. And that some of you who've been in situations where you were in once and then no longer, you make a decision to go back into Performance Club and then you never leave it. Because tonight is about consistency. It's about leadership and the impact that one simple habit can have over a lifetime. Now, why are we doing this tonight? Well, let me just talk about this. Now, my family and I that are here together tonight, and they're upstairs. I'll tell a little bit about that story. But normally, this is the week that I would be on the Performance Club trip. We have 700 plus of our LegalShield associates that are in the Dominican Republic right now. And my family and some of the folks that are going to be speaking here tonight are in this situation where there was a conflict and we just couldn't go on the trip. So while we qualified for the trip, and I'm going to share with you why qualifying matters so much, we also aren't attending. And I decided this would be an opportunity for us. I kind of looked at this. I said, listen, there's got to be a reason this is happening. There's got to be a way that we can make something of this. And because honestly, I was a little disappointed coming into the knowledge, knowing that our trip this year, the dates conflicted with my daughter's ballet, which some of you have no idea who I am, and that's okay. But my daughter is very deep into ballet. It's a very serious thing in our family, and our spring ballet, because they moved what the trip was typically in July, it moved to June, and it created a conflict. And ballet, if you know anything about ballet, there really is only two or a few big shows a year, and this weekend the conflict is that there was just no way around it. But my daughter, who just turned 11 today, by the way, my daughter Olive, today's her 11th birthday. In the early days, it was so much fun because the trip was always coordinated kind of accidentally with her birthday, except for that first year because we were waiting for her to be born and we couldn't go on that trip either to Huntington Beach, California. But we started going every year as a family, the three of us instead of the two of us after that, which means that she had her first birthday on her first Performance Club trip, which was Moon Palace in Cancun. Then the next year, we were in Jamaica. She got to have her second birthday in Jamaica. Her third birthday happened at Atlantis in the Bahamas, and it just kept on like that for years. And then, of course, she went to school. But luckily, when she went to school, we also had moved the trips to July for a while. Now they're back to June. So there's a little bit of a conflict there. But I realized this might be the perfect opportunity because I'm here to have a conversation we've never really had before. So this isn't about a trip. It's certainly not about a bonus. So we're going to talk about how all this works, but it's about what happens when someone develops a habit, and that's going to be a key word tonight, and sticks with it month after month, year after year. I just want to make sure you understand, and I not to brag or boast, just to assure you, I'm qualified to teach this class tonight. So for 147 consecutive months, one habit every single month without stopping, I have been Performance Club qualified. And I don't share this number to impress you. I share it because I want you to understand the power of consistency. See, nobody actually qualifies for 147 consecutive months. You do it 1 month at a time. You live it 1 month at a time, one exposure at a time. If you haven't heard that word before, you're going to hear that tonight. One conversation at a time, one membership at a time. See, success in our business isn't usually one big decision. It's a series of small decisions repeated over and over again. Now, I've been in this business a lot longer than 147 months. So you might be saying, Jim, what about that difference? Your streak is 147 months. Is there a story about where you may have broken your streak in the past? Yes. And we're going to talk about that tonight too. Because I learned more from missing Performance Club. And I want to share that story with you. So it's a powerful story. Hopefully you have a pen and paper ready. We're going to be talking about some stuff. Let's get into a little bit of the brass tacks though. So this is something I want to make sure you understand. 147 consecutive months. And by the way, in case you don't know, we're going to kind of cover all of the nuance tonight. The way that the bonuses work, there's a monthly cash bonus that starts in month 3 in Performance Club. It's $200 a month. Then after 12 months, after you complete your first year, it moves up, it doubles to $400 a month. After 24 months consecutively qualifying every month for Performance Club, it moves up again to $500 a month. Do me a favor, and we're gonna be working together tonight. In the time we're together, this is gonna be a two-way conversation. So I'm ready for you. Hopefully, you're ready for me. If you are not driving a car or piloting an aircraft or doing something where it would otherwise be dangerous, do me a favor, jump in the chat because we're gonna do this together. I just want you to see that we've got folks that are already seriously in Performance Club. If you've ever received a Performance Club check, $200, $400, $500 or more, and I'll explain the more in a little bit, just put a 1 in the chat because I want to make sure that everybody that's with us tonight understands that this is a real company paying out real bonuses to real people. So I'm seeing some ones. We're talking about folks that are earning an additional $200 a month, $400 a month, $500 a month. You know what $500 a month is? That's $6,000 a year. Thank you for participating. And guess what? There's more people that I want you to be able to put a 1 in. So let's work on that together tonight. Let's start getting you Performance Club checks as well. So what does that mean? Because again, I said I didn't share that number to impress you, but I do want to impress upon you that this is significant. And I know this. I should say I think this. I think this. I feel this. I feel it coming from. If we were all in a room, it would be easier because I'm a live event speaker. But we're not in a room. We're on a Zoom, and Zoom is better than a conference call, as Dr. Corley was describing what those were like in the old days. There's nothing like being together. And in Cookeville, Tennessee, July 31st and August 1st, when we are together, you will feel the difference when we're in that room together. But I just want you to know, it isn't about the $200, the $400, the $500 a month, but it is because these are real dollars. So we're going to be talking tonight about the habits that get set up and systematized, and how that changes your life in this business. And how something that seemingly doesn't seem to matter that much matters the most in our business. That's the overwhelming, bold promise I have for you tonight. The thing that seems to matter the least matters the most. And it's called Performance Club. But I just thought I would do some calculations for you tonight. And you might say, well, okay, so there's big money on the table at LegalShield. We're going to talk about the compensation plan tonight. But these $200, $400, $500 a month bonuses, like, how does that change my life? Jim, why would I focus on that? Here's my story so far. During my current streak of 147 months, Performance Club has generated approximately $68,700 in cash bonuses. Now, we have a program today where we get matching bonuses, and I am not including a dollar of that in that number. That is what I just showed you, $200, $400, then $500 a month. $68,700 in cash bonuses. And at least $70,000 in trip value over the last 14 Performance Club trips this company has sent me in my life on. That's over $138,000. And this number is misleading because it only counts the bonuses and the trips. It doesn't count the behavior that causes increased overrides, elite level commissions, matching bonuses, the relationships, like the networking I've been able to do on these trips with other people who'd earn more income than I had when I met them, the experiences or the life that consistency helped create. Dr. Corley talked a little bit about that, and we're not going to get into it tonight. I'm going to train in Cookeville, Tennessee on how I move dollars through my LegalShield business, how that's become investment properties, and how I buy assets instead of buying debt, how I create additional assets. I'm going to talk about all that in Cookeville. So that's something to come. But what I'm talking about tonight is that hopefully this money gets your attention, that $138,000, but it isn't the most valuable thing Performance Club has given me. Because Performance Club has given me a routine, and I'm going to get into the habits and the routine of this. But let me just ask you this question, because again, we're in the chat together. Just tell me yes or no in the chat if $138,700 was on the sidewalk when you were walking down the street one day. Would you pick it up? Would you step over it, walk away from it? Like, because I know that the goal is to become a Millionaire Club member, but would you pick up 138,000 extra dollars? But what if I'm seeing some yeses? Okay, good. And by the way, if that number is shocking to you, when I made this slide and I actually put the calculations together, it was shocking to me too. It's a powerful reminder because folks, that's real dollars. That's tanks of gas. That's groceries paid for. That's mortgages covered. That's in the Northeast where I live. I live in the Boston area where we had a cold winter, a brutally cold winter, a brutally cold spring, and a late spring summer. And most of us, including here at this house I'm in right now, we heat with oil heat. And we're talking about the Straits of Hormuz and everything else you see on the news. You look at the price of a gallon of gasoline, that hurts. But if you are buying heating oil, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say that is a shocking per gallon number to get a bill for. And the truck just kept coming and filling and coming and filling. And I had to wonder every single time, what do people that don't have a LegalShield business, what do people that don't have what I found 22 years ago, what the heck do they do every time these bills show up? And so I'm super motivated tonight to reveal to you more of this business than most people ever even consider. And let's keep going on. See, I want to talk now about what happens when life happens. Because I'll bet life has happened to you in your life. And I'll bet life has happened to you in your LegalShield life if you've been with me for a while. And I'll bet when life has happened to you, you had to dust yourself off and get yourself up again, whether in this business or others, in life in general. So I want to tell you a quick story, and I want to tell it quickly because it's not something I share all the time, but it does matter here. Because it's the story of what happened 147 months ago that caused me to lose my qualification for Performance Club and the lesson I learned along the way. There was a period, and in this period of time, my grandmother, and this is a little bit of a story about the power of our business model. But my grandmother, who had cancer and beat it, we found out the cancer came back. And so I got a call. I remember I was with Bill Sharon. Some of you know Bill. We had actually just come back from a Cookeville event. We had flown from, we had driven to Charlotte, North Carolina from Cookeville because that was where we were going to fly out of. We were intending to fly back to Boston, and then I was going to spend a few days with Bill in Vermont, and that was our plan. And we'd made that trip together. We had a great time. But when I was waiting for my flight in Charlotte, I got a call from my mom that nobody wants to get, that my grandmother was back in the hospital and she wanted to know where I was and how soon I could be there. Now, some of you have gotten this call. It's not a great call to get when you're home. It's worse when you're on the road. But we caught our flight from Charlotte, got to Boston, rented a car, and drove up to Vermont, where I spent unknowingly, with the clothes I'd had from that trip, I spent the next 6 weeks at the hospital. Now, ultimately, my grandmother didn't leave that hospital and she passed away. And that's not a great story. It's a sad story. But one of the things that I've often told, if you've heard me tell that story before, I talked about how all of my aunts and uncles, who at the time, this was several years ago, none of them were retired yet. They were still working, including my mom. And they were having to check how long could I be at the hospital before I have to go back to work? How many days do I have in this situation before I have to go back to work? They were constantly checking, coming and going. But for 6 weeks, I stayed there. For 6 weeks, I stayed at the hospital. I stayed by her bedside, and I was happy and grateful because of this business that I could do it. Now, did I miss Performance Club? Yes. And we didn't have the system today where you could catch up and things like that. But none of that matters because during that season where I lost my Performance Club streak, something interesting happened. And this is what I want you to listen to. My income did not disappear. The team that I had created because I was invested in Performance Club prior to that event, prior to that 6 week period, the team I'd been building continued producing the entire time that I sat by my grandmother's side the entire time that everybody else in my family wondered if they could even come back or if they had to go to work. The entire time I slept on that couch in her hospital room. I got a deposit every single day because I had built a LegalShield business before that happened. So often I talk to people, they're in this business and life happens, but they didn't build the business yet to have that privilege that I enjoyed during a tough time for my family. And that's one of the greatest lessons Performance Club has ever taught me. Because it isn't just about this month, it's about building something that can continue working even when life gets difficult. And how do you do that? Consistency over time creates stability in this business. So, because of the business I was building already focused on Performance Club, I was already earning over $100,000 a year. I was getting deposits every single day while I was living my life and taking care of my family. And there's other examples in the future where I didn't miss Performance Club. Some of you know that my mom passed from Alzheimer's at an early age suddenly. And there's other lessons in that story as well. But she never sat alone. She never wondered where her son was because of this powerful business and because of Performance Club. And I want to make sure you understand that you get to be the hero in other people's stories because this company is the hero in yours. And that's why we're spending time together tonight. That's why we're spending the time that's required, and we're not putting a limit on this tonight. Because I've got slides and I've got stories and I've got conversations, and we often talk about how Jim Tanner has stories that'll keep us up for days. But tonight we're going to talk about setting yourself up for the rest of your life, setting your family up for the next generation with legacy income. And we're not going to kid around about it or tell jokes because tonight it's important enough that we get serious about this business, that we breathe into the realities that we exist in, which is that no one else is coming to save us. And that you've already, if you've joined this company, made the best decision of your life. And what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say that the biggest benefit wasn't the bonus, it wasn't the trips, it wasn't the recognition. The biggest benefit was that Performance Club put myself into a process of creating consistency. Performance Club taught me to think in calendar months. It taught me to develop a rhythm in my business. And looking back, the habit itself was the reward because the habit eventually produced everything else. I mean, everything. Those books that Dr. Corley was talking about, the lessons of consistency, of doing stuff consistently. The habit itself is the reward. Those books are written because I learned how to be consistent from Performance Club. Saving money, putting it aside, instead of buying things that feel good in the moment, but saving for a brighter day tomorrow, and then being able to invest in assets that create additional income, came from the lessons of Performance Club. You've heard me say, if you've ever sat in a room where I stood on stage, let LegalShield change you. You won't be sorry. This is the change that I'm talking about. And some of you are saying, listen, he keeps saying about Performance Club. I don't even know what that is. Why does it matter? Why does it matter? Let's analyze that. And then pretty soon, I want to warn you, pretty soon, or assure you, I should say, I'm going to take a break. You're going to hear from some of my business partners. But the company doesn't have to pay bonuses. We know that, right? The company doesn't have to fund the trips. The company doesn't have to create the matching bonuses. I'm going to talk about that tonight too. So why do they? Have you ever wondered why Performance Club exists? Have you ever really thought about it for a second? Like, what is the company's motivation? It's because Performance Club creates the exact behaviors that advance the mission of LegalShield. More Performance Club qualifiers means more memberships, more protected families. It means more associates and more leaders, and ultimately more people gaining access to the services that we provide. So the company is investing in the behaviors that help fulfill the mission, which means that Performance Club is not an expense to the company. It's an investment in growth, and it's an investment in our focus on service because the company pays people to win. One of the most remarkable things about our company is that it rewards people for doing the activities that help everyone succeed. So think about this for a moment. The company rewards production with Performance Club. It rewards consistency. It rewards leadership. It rewards helping other people succeed through Performance Club bonuses, trips, the matching bonuses, the other recognition programs, like all the stuff they give us for the milestones, the advancement opportunities, the elite level compensation. I'm going to talk about all that. The company is intentionally encouraging the behaviors that create more protected families with our services. There are not many companies that have figured out how to align the interests of the company, the customer, the associate, and the team leader so effectively. If you're taking notes, and I hope you are, I'm going to say them one more time. And maybe one of our leaders will even put that in the chat. I got to make sure you're with me on this, okay? There aren't many companies anywhere on the planet Earth that have figured out how to align the interests of the company, the interests of the customer, the interest of the associate, and the interest of the leader of the team as effectively as what we have with Performance Club. We are all in alignment. Everything is together. And it all comes back to the membership, right? Access to justice. Everything starts and ends with the membership. So before we talk about bonuses, trips, leadership, income, let's remember why this company exists. Harlan Stonecipher believed that access to legal help shouldn't be reserved for wealthy people. Every membership we place represents a family that has access to legal advice when they need it. What does that mean? It means it represents confidence. It represents protection. It represents someone having a voice when they might otherwise feel powerless. That's why I always remind you what we do matters. Performance Club helps us place more memberships into the hands of more families. And that, folks, is something we should never, ever, ever lose sight of. And I asked a few people here to join me and share their voices tonight and to talk about, as you see on the screen, how this membership makes a difference in people's lives, the way they live their lives, the way they deal with stress, the way they run their businesses, the way they treat their employees, the way they sleep at night, folks. I'm going to start by going out to the state of Utah to Mr. Ron Evans. Now, Ron, we love that you're here with us tonight. I know that you, with all your time in the business, you probably have a Rolodex of membership testimonials or stories or anecdotes that you could pull from. We love to hear what you think would land most with this audience tonight. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. I really appreciate it. I just was thinking about that and trying to come up with some of the stories that we've gone through. And recently, my wife, I'm just going to kind of preface this so you kind of know where this is coming from. My wife makes homemade candy, and she decided that we would go down to the markets. There's some farmers markets that we go down to, and we set up our little tent and our table, and we sell these candies. She makes 16 different kinds, and they're all handmade. They're all made by her. They're made here in the kitchen. And just recently, they came out and they said we can't give out samples. When we were down, we used to give out just free samples. And at one time they were complaining a little bit, so we wrapped them. We made these little samples, we wrapped them, and we would hand them out so people could taste the candy before they bought it. Well, just recently there was a law passed that said we can no longer give out samples. And that was really kind of a big thing for us because that was kind of the draw. So we were concerned about what that law really meant, what it was all about. So we contacted our law firm, and our lawyer got the law, looked at it, and analyzed it, and then got back to us and said, "That's correct, you can't." But she said, "If you want to put them out and sell them for a penny, you can do that." And I said, "Well, that's kind of ridiculous because then we got to have a bunch of pennies. People put down a nickel, we got to give them, whatever." And so we just decided not to do it anymore. but you have to have you have to either sell it, but then we have to bring in a wash station. There's a lot of other regulations, but we would have not known that. And who knows if somebody comes along and turns us in, we got a major fine. So for us, it was a great opportunity for us just to get a hold of the law firm and to find out what our rights are. If you don't talk to the attorneys, you don't know what your rights really are. And that was a real turning point for us. Thanks, Jim.
Ron, thank you very much. I appreciate you so much. And, we love hearing the stories from folks that have been around. You've touched so many lives. I'm glad that you used one of your personal stories. I know that's kind of something I'm going to pivot to here in a moment is talking about how we as associates use our membership. So I'm grateful for that as well. Let's keep going. Let's go to the state of Ohio now. I've got Miss Anita Madison standing by. Anita?
Good evening, everyone. Yeah, I have been a member of Legal Shield for 15 years. I got involved with Legal Shield as a result of losing my husband. Now, we had all of our estate planning in place, we thought, but we didn't understand the process. And so when my husband passed away, I started receiving letters from probate, and of course, I didn't understand why, so I ignored them and until they froze my assets. And when they did that, that got my attention. Um, there was a lady that told me about Legal Shield, and I signed up right away. And within 3 days, Legal Shield got all of the situation turned around, and I was able to gain access to my accounts. And I was a little leery, so I called and asked them, what I needed to do. And to my surprise, they told me not one thing. I didn't have to do anything. And so with that, I would never, ever be without my Legal Shield plan. It is so powerful to have. And so fast forward all the way just a few years ago, I was made aware of the business. And so I've been a member for 15 years and an associate for 3 years. And I'll tell you, there's nothing like having this kind of power in your back pocket. Thank you so much, Jim. Back to you.
Anita, thank you very much. And let's see. I'm going to stay in Ohio. I've got time for one more. Miss Jamie Burris. Jamie, are you with us?
I am. So when I started with Legal Shield, when I first found out about membership, I actually checked into a hotel that I paid for online, and I have lupus, which is an illness that causes me to use a service animal. So when I get into the hotel, to my surprise, they tell me they cannot let me in because they have a no animal policy. I knew that was illegal for them to do. However, after arguing with the team that was there, I didn't know what to do about it. Someone told me about Legal Shield. I got the membership, and I instantly was able to talk to an attorney that night that got me into the hotel without any hassle. That was powerful for me because I was a young woman at the time. And since then, still utilizing the membership to this day. I don't know about you guys, but I am not a car lady whatsoever. So taking my car to get serviced, I expect the service to be done. And when I take my car and they fix it and tell me, hey, everything's okay, if your light doesn't go off, come back the next day. Well, I'll take my car back the next day and they tell me that they didn't fix what I told them to and they wanted to charge me more money to fix it. Legal Shield ended up sending them a letter on my behalf. So I like to say I didn't have to have those petty arguments anymore. And I know a lot of people go through this every day. I didn't have to spend double money, yell at the managers to get that resolved. Legal Shield took that right off of my plate, and I've used it several times. It's such a blessing to have with the membership. Back over to you, Mr. Tanner.
Jamie, thank you. Thank you. Isn't that, guys, ladies and gentlemen, isn't that amazing? I'm gonna add my story, a few of my stories here to this as well. But you heard from Ron and Anita and Jamie. Are they associates? Yes. Are they real people that use the membership? Absolutely. I just think about, so some of you know this story about me and some of you don't. So let me just tell it really quick. I encountered the Legal Shield membership a decade prior to getting involved in the business. because someone came to where I worked and shared the membership with me, and I signed up at work. So I didn't see the opportunity, which a lot of folks see the opportunity and the membership together, which is great. I wish I had, but I saw the membership and I signed up. There's a couple lessons I want to teach you from this. Number one is that I signed up thinking this will be, I'd rather have this and not need it than need it and not have it. It just made sense to me. I was 18, almost 19 years old. I was a young man. I didn't care about the will. I didn't care about any of that stuff, but I drove a delivery truck for a living. And in that company where I drove the truck, they made it very clear, crystal clear all the time that if you got tickets, whether it was with the truck at work or on your personal vehicle on your license, if you got points on your license that would raise their insurance, they would just fire you because they didn't want their insurance to go up. And I had watched them fire people for that, and I knew they were serious. They weren't kidding. So when this gentleman came in and said that I would have an attorney to represent me for traffic issues if I had them, I saw this immediately, even though I was a teenager, I saw it immediately as a way to preserve my job in the case where something might have happened in the future. There's a lesson there because some of you would say, well, 18, 19-year-old kid's probably not a good customer. Maybe not, but how do you know why until you do a presentation for somebody, why somebody would sign up? That was my story. But I didn't get to use my membership for the first time for a moving traffic violation. Actually, that ended up being my second usage of the membership. Here's what happened 3 weeks after that gentleman signed me up for a membership. 3 weeks later, I was moving. I was moving apartments so I could move to another city, same company, same job, better money, safer also, which is its own conversation. So I needed to move. And my landlord, even though I wasn't breaking a lease, even though I hadn't damaged the property, told me I couldn't have my security deposit back. Now, I didn't make much money, and I didn't have enough money to float that difference, meaning I needed that landlord to give me my security deposit so I could give it to the next guy. And I don't know if you've ever been in that situation, but that was my deal, and I was stuck. And so I was frustrated. I raised my voice. He raised his voice. Nothing came of it. Nothing was resolved. As a matter of fact, the last thing he said when he walked away was, "You will never see that $500." And I remember being mad enough that like I was frustrated, angry. And I remembered that a few weeks earlier that this gentleman showed me LegalShield, and he said that I could call my law firm. He said that they would consult with me about my legal question. And I certainly had a legal question, right? So I called the law firm. I told them the story I just told you. And you know what they did? They told me what the law was. They said, listen, he can't do, that's not how the law works. This was in upstate New York where my apartment was. He said, that's not how the law works there. So here's what they did. I explained to them the urgency, and because of the urgency, they overnighted a letter to that landlord. The next day, he woke up to having that in his mailbox, right? Went into the office, opened a FedEx envelope. There's a letter from my law firm. What did it say? It said that I had attorneys representing me. It said exactly what those attorneys intended to do if he didn't do the right thing. Here's the rest of that story, folks. I'm 19 years old. I've got a landlord who is pushing me around, who is not doing the right thing when nobody was looking. And here's what he did. He called me at work that next day. Now, 24 hours earlier, he stood on my doorstep and said I would never see that money. 24 hours later, he called me at work. I thought he was going to yell at me some more when he got a letter from my attorneys, but he didn't yell at me. He said in a calm, very collected voice, he said, "Jim, come over to my office and pick up a check. I don't want any problems from your attorneys." That day changed how I understood the membership that I'd signed up for, certainly a few weeks ago. But as it turns out, in the years ahead, it would change my entire life. Now, how did it change my entire life? Well, because 10 years later, when I saw the presentation on the opportunity, and I realized that was a membership I already owned, believed in, which is what I'm about to get to, you couldn't tell me that this wasn't real because the membership was absolutely real. So when I saw the presentation 10 years later on how I could earn income referring people to these services, I'd already been telling people they should have LegalShield for a decade. I'll bet if I brought Anita back on, she was doing the same thing because she was a member first. My friend Nola Fennessy, who's the regional vice president for Northern New England, who's a Millionaire Club member like myself, a six-figure ring earner like myself, for 10 years owned this membership, loved it and told other people about it, had no idea about the opportunity because her financial planner told her and her husband, you guys need to have this. See what I'm saying? The membership stands on its own. It's core and key to what we do. And you might be saying, Jim, I get it. Do you get it? Here's the second time I ever used my LegalShield membership. It was a moving traffic violation. I didn't have much money, so I had a car that wasn't very impressive. And even though it attracted the wrong kind of attention, meaning like sometimes the tail lights would be out or whatever, that's not what I got the tickets for. I was allegedly speeding through a small town on my way home from work one night. I remember getting the whole runaround from the law officer. Now, this was before I had a cell phone. Had I had a cell phone and it was in the modern era, I would have had my attorney on the phone with me, which would have been even a better story. That's not the story. I had to do the whole thing to prove that I wasn't drunk. I was just coming home from work, but it happened to be late at night. So I had to walk the line. I had to touch my nose. I had to do all of these things that they ask you to do to prove that you're okay. But I still got tickets for speeding. I got tickets for other things that they figured they might as well add on in the event that they had me there anyway. And now I could barely pay my bills as it is in life. And now because a small community gets revenue from pulling people over. And sure, making sure that people aren't drinking and driving is reputable and important, but the indignity that goes with that treatment when you haven't been drinking and driving isn't very fun at all, and some of you could probably relate to that. The fear of not knowing how that night's going to go is definitely something I'll never forget. But when it was all said and done and I got to go home, sitting with these tickets that I was now going to have to face, I called LegalShield again. I told them about the situation. They had me send them the tickets. The court date was set. My attorney was scheduled, and he was sent there to represent me in traffic court. Now, here's what happened. And if I'm boring any of you with this, you should look within, because the core of how people become millionaires in this business is their white-hot belief in this membership. So let's talk about what happened next for Jim Tanner. Again, this is a decade before I ever saw the opportunity. LegalShield sent the former district attorney to represent me in traffic court. Now, that's not typical. But what happened was the former district attorney had gone back into private practice after he decided not to be district attorney anymore. He had a practice in the area. And my law firm referred to him to go to traffic court with me. You know what that meant? That meant when we walked into that courthouse in Mechanicville, New York, which is as small a town as you're ever going to find, the judge knew who he was. The cops, the bailiffs, the secretaries, the paralegals, every person in that room knew who he was. And you know what they're wondering? Who was the kid that had this attorney? Who was this young man that would have that powerful of attorney? Maybe they're thinking, who's his dad? That he would have this guy standing next to him. Here's the rest of that story. In case you've never been to traffic court with an attorney with you, the judge asks for you to raise your hand if you're represented by counsel. It means if you have a lawyer with you. I raised my hand. A couple other people did too. We got to go first. Not because the judge respected my time, but because the judge respected my attorney's time. We got to go first. Now, what happened next was a blur. He said a few things to the judge. The judge said a few things to him. I didn't understand any of it. Gavel dropped, and a few minutes later, we were on our way home. I had taken the day off from work for that, and I was back at work before lunch because I had an attorney. I had representation. I had an advocate and an expert. And we walked past a dozen people that didn't have an attorney that day. We walked past a dozen people who were wondering what they should do. And we're going to plead for mercy from the judge. When you understand the power of LegalShield, you will be in a different position to build this business. I promise you that. When you understand the power of it. And that's why we're spending so much time on these stories. Ron's story, Anita's story, Jamie's story, my story. That's why we're not worried about trying to fit this into 60 minutes tonight. Because if some of you drop off, the recording will exist. I hope you stay with us. But the recording will move on and will continue with us. Because this is powerful and it's important. And we have to have this conversation so that you can build something massive. So what does that mean? You know that you know what happened when I got that check back from my landlord? You know what happened when I had that experience at traffic court? I told everybody. I told my mom and my grandparents. I told friends at work. I told people that didn't sign up the day that guy came to our job and told them they made a mistake and they need to call him back. I was advocating. I was referring, but I wasn't involved in the business because I believed in what we had here. Do you guys understand that? So, what do you do if that's not your story? And by the way, 10 years later, when I joined the company, I said to myself, I've already been telling people about LegalShield for free. I can certainly keep doing the same thing I've already been doing. I'll just do it a little bit more consistently, right? We have in our back office this document. It's called 101 Reasons to Use Your LegalShield Membership. Yes, it's for our customers. Of course it is. But you have to use your membership. You have to know in your heart, in your soul, that this thing works. You know why? You're not going to show this to the people you care the most about if you're worried if it works. When we say to make a list, I know the people that won't make their list are the people that won't use their membership. Because if you use your membership, you will run to the people you love. And you will say, you have to have this. Not because I make money, but because this makes a difference. And so a part of what we have to spend time on to get locked into Performance Club is getting locked into understanding that what you have is so real, so awesome, that it's hard to wrap your mind around it because most of us were told our whole lives that it's impossible, not possible, to find yourself in the right place at the right time. But you've done it. And this part of your brain that has been programmed the other way is saying it can't be true because I'm not the person who wins like that. It's not luck. You're here for a reason. Use your membership. Get your will done. If you have a will, get it updated. I'm not saying go fly down the highway at 90 miles an hour and see if you can get a ticket. Don't do that. But there's so many ways you can use your membership proactively right now. And if you're not using it, of course you're not having nearly the success you could have. And I want you to believe in the company. Listen, today, here's where we are. We're at 4.5, climbing to 5 million customers. We have millions of customers. We are operating at 99% positive customer satisfaction. I want you to think about that. I was just saying this to someone else yesterday. I want you to think about what that means. Think about how many people you know that are negative just naturally. Like their whole life is the glass is half full. Everything about them is negative, pessimistic. Well, that's a big chunk of society, right? It's also a big chunk of our millions of customers because they're in society. And yet they can't find anything to complain about. 99% positive customer satisfaction means that even the negative people don't see anything negative in what we do. We're constantly being awarded. This is not the company that Harlan Stonecipher started 50 plus years ago. Why isn't it that company? It's not that company because we have grown to be the power player. So 54 years ago, they were begging an attorney to do this with them. 54 years later, we paid $120 million to the law firm network in the last 12 months. $120 million. The average attorneys that work with us have been with us for 19 years. The average experience of those attorneys is 22 years as lawyers. We have thousands of attorneys. We handle every area of law. That's the business that you're a part of. You are revolutionizing the legal services industry. One of my favorite quotes comes from James Clear. He says, "You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems." See, most associates have goals. They want to become an executive director. They want financial freedom. They want to earn six figures. They want to become a Millionaire Club member. I'm all for it. The difference is that goals tell you where you want to go, and systems determine whether or not you get there. And Performance Club is our system. It's the habit building framework that teaches us consistency over time. Those consistent actions become predictable results. And at some point, we have to qualify and talk about the mechanics. I'm going to do that here in a minute. But the important thing to remember is that there isn't only one path. I'm going to show you the different ways we earn points. And the specifics matter, but I don't want you to become overly focused on the math tonight. The bigger lesson is that the points are simply the scoreboard. The real game is the activity that creates the points. So how do you make the points? When you sign somebody up for a membership, whatever the dollar value on a monthly basis of that membership is, dollars equal points. So if you sign someone up for a $29.95 membership, we round up to whole numbers, that's 30 points. Sign someone up for a preferred plan, $39.95 membership, 40 points. Sign someone up for the premium plan, $49.90 plan, round up to 50 points. Dollar value on a monthly basis of the membership equals the points. But then you recruit someone onto your team at the same time, that's another 50 points. That new recruit fast start qualifies, you get another 50 points. You go open a new group, that's 50 points. And that's where the $200, $400, $500 in bonuses come from. I'm going to go back to that, but 150 points might sound daunting if you think, well, how do I get to 150 or something? But we're talking about cumulative earning points, 50 points here, 50 points there, 50 points there. It's a little bit. It's 3 to 4 families protected a month. And then you get to roll over additional points. One of the most powerful aspects of Performance Club is our rollover. So up to 150 excess points can roll into the next month. So when people first start, they're often actually challenged, right? I mean, you fight sometimes that first month to reach 150 points, but then as time goes on, they begin expecting to reach 150 points. And eventually many leaders start a new month already qualified or nearly qualified because they built momentum. They just start producing points beyond 150. This is where consistency begins to compound. Because a strong month doesn't just help you today, it gives you a head start on tomorrow. That's one of the rewards of building the habit over time. And what's the habit? It's 2 exposures per day. You know, whenever a new associate asks me how to qualify for a Performance Club, I don't go back and talk about that slide on points. I don't talk about bonuses right away. I start by talking about exposures. The simplest system we teach is 2 exposures a day. Make a list. Don't prejudge anybody on the list. Remember my story. You wouldn't have thought I'd get a membership. Invite them to learn more. Get them in front of a complete presentation. Then repeat the process tomorrow. Success in this business isn't usually complicated. It's often the result of a simple action or a few simple actions performed consistently. And what happens? Let's just take a look at an average month. Like June has 30 days, right? 2 exposures a day doesn't sound like much, but let's do the math. 2 exposures a day in June would be 60 exposures in the month. Out of 60 properly exposed people, don't you think that some would get a membership? Of course they will. Do you think some will become associates? Absolutely they will. Do you think some will refer people to you? Of course, certainly. That's why I tell people not to focus on points, focus on exposures. The exposures create the opportunities, and then the opportunities create the points. Doesn't that make more sense? Isn't that more fun that way? All right, you heard enough from me, okay? This is where I want you to hear from someone other than me. I'm bringing Dr. Corley back. I just want you to listen for the common themes that you're hearing throughout tonight. Consistency, persistence, growth, personal development. Ask yourself, what lessons from this story can you apply to your own journey? Even long-term qualifiers, they have a different story, but they almost always share one thing in common. They kept showing up month after month. So let's go back to this incredibly dynamic individual, regional vice president over the Tennessee region, an executive director, a ring earner in our company, on his way to the Millionaires Club, Dr. Chris Corley.
Oh, thank you so much, Jim. I tell you, I hope everybody really is appreciating this deep dive into the, the hows of how to Performance Club qualify and the mission of the company, the mission of our founder, Harlan Stone Cipher. It's a very, very powerful training, Mr. Tanner, and I want to thank you very much personally for it. I'm going to just briefly talk about, where I was. I had my wife hop on, and I think she had to hop off because we're about to make a 10-hour drive down to Orlando, and We're going to meet up with her family and have a family reunion that had been planned for quite some time. So yeah, we're gonna hit the hit the highway, and I've got 5 small kids in the car, and so everybody pray for me. But we do this a lot, and I'm looking forward to it, and I'm grateful because Performance Club qualifying and having people on my team Performance Club qualify are some of the reasons why I'm able to have a lifestyle where I can just say yes, and my wife's family is like, we're having a family reunion, we want to get together and do this, and we want to spend a week doing that, and I'm able to say yes. I don't have to worry about asking permission from a boss or a job. But going back to when I got started, my wife was not on board, Mr. Tanner, with me getting started with LegalShield. She wasn't. And that's very, very important. And at some point we're going to get her on this Zoom so you can hear her voice because it's very, very powerful. There were some trainers that had, interesting last names. We had a man called Mr. Cash, Cash, who was a trainer when I got started. Now he's like retired, I guess, on his residuals. And then, of course, we have Mr. Riches, right? So we had Mr. Riches, who was the founder of Success Team. And then we had a guy training. His name was Cash. And my wife was like, are you kidding me? You got started in what business being trained by a guy named Cash and a founder by the name of Riches? You are a fool. I'm living with a fool. So that's what I was dealing with. And so the reason why this subject, the Performance Club, is so powerful for me is because this was a way very quickly for me to get some wins on the board, Mr. Tanner, and get cash into my bank account that my wife could see, so she could see that this was a real business, that this was a real company that was putting money in our bank account as I was learning how to be a ring earner. Because I didn't come into it being a ring earner. I didn't come into it, Mr. Tanner, having enough people, leading enough people to change my zip code from Pennsylvania down to Tennessee. That didn't happen immediately. But what Performance Club qualifying every month did was it put bonuses into our bank account every single month on the 7th of the month, that told my wife that this was something that was real. And at the same time that we were getting bonuses that were going into our joint bank account, I was learning the power of being consistent. Remember when I said I did not know how to build a business that was going to give me enough income to move from Pennsylvania down to Tennessee, purchase land, get a house, and start a whole nother financial life of freedom for myself and my family. I did not know how to do that. But I had an objection from my wife, and I knew the Performance Club qualifying and those checks were going to keep her quiet while I was learning how to build an empire and really start dreaming big and to make some big changes for myself. So that's why when you said, Mr. Tanner, about the alignment of the interest or the alignment of the associate, it is so true, right? So the company was doing well by my consistency. I was doing well in the Corley household because my wife, her perception of what I had decided to do was starting to change, and she was going from a doubter, negative as you mentioned, to being my biggest supporter because she saw regular checks coming into the bank account, and she could not deny her eyes. But at the same time, I was becoming a leader because my consistency was then starting to become contagious to people who I was fortunately bringing into the business to run with me. And so they saw what I was doing. They saw the checks that I was making. They saw that my name was up there every month, Performance Club qualifying. And they wanted to run with me. And some of them, Mr. Tanner, wanted to run ahead of me. And I wasn't mad at them because a lot of them did. And that's okay. So that's just my story about what Performance Club qualifying did for me, for the people that I loved more than life, but they were the naysayers that I was living with, justifiably so. But Performance Club qualifying allowed me to bring consistent money into my bank account pretty quickly, change their minds while I was changing my habits, changing my lifestyle, and becoming a leader and being able to dream bigger once again. Thank you, Jim, for allowing me to share that with you. I'll turn it back over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Corley. Now, Bethany has joined us. If I don't know if you noticed that on the screen. I don't
Uh-oh.
know. I don't know where she is status wise on sharing, but I wonder if before you officially turn it back over to me, if you could share some thoughts about the upcoming Cookville event, July 31st and August 1st as well, sir.
Yeah, so that is one of the most important things that I did. And I don't know if I don't maybe she's on or maybe she's not.
I'm
It's just
here.
better.
I'm in
Oh,
the
okay.
background. I'm here.
Okay, yeah. So we had no money. Oh wait, why don't you just share about the why don't you share about the about how you thought about your husband starting his own business, but then when those checks started coming, you put it in your own words.
Well, at the time when LegalShield had come around for Chris, I was very pregnant with our third child and waiting tables, and we were living basically my server night to server night. That's how we were paying our bills at that time. And he says he found this great new thing with Mark Riches, and his buddy's last name was Cash, and all I had to do was pay $150 and I was going to have my own business. And I'm like, you are an idiot. Like, you just scammed our last $150 on something that somebody just completely made up. Like, you totally got duped. Um and I was his biggest critic. I was not a supporter. I got up, threw down all my stuff, and headed out to work to go make some real fast money. Um but like he said, Chris really did grind that first year, and within a few months we were getting the Performance Club checks. And at the time, they also were running a very large bonus for hitting executive director for 3 months in a row. And darn it, if Chris didn't hit executive director 3 months in a row, and we got $10,000 bonus just in time for Christmas. That was one of the turning points for me, seeing Chris really work hard and grind at something to really be able to get us back on our feet, to support our family, and then to ultimately give us a new start in Tennessee, working hand in hand right under Mark Riches. So it really has been a game changer for our family, and I'm not a skeptic anymore. So that's all I've got to say. Thank you so much.
That's great. And so what that also did, Jim, was it gave me a little breathing room when I wanted to say we were going to do like a 20-hour drive down to Cookeville, Tennessee, or whatever the drive, when it was 11, down to Cookeville, Tennessee, to go to a boot camp, right? And so that's when my wife was like, all right, well, we'll pack up the kids and we'll get in there, because we couldn't really afford all the gas, and we didn't know where we were going to stay, and all that. But see, here's what I knew. I trusted you guys who were making millions and millions of dollars at this. I went out on faith with being consistent with Performance Club qualifying. It wasn't easy, but I just had to be consistent, right? I didn't have to sell 1,000 memberships every month. I just had to Performance Club qualify for the month to get those bonuses. And that just gave me a little bit of a breathing room, and it gave my wife a little bit of belief that, I wasn't crazy. And so when I said, hey, we need to go to this boot camp, so she's like, we still can't afford it because we got 3 kids now, and $10,000 is good money, and the performance club checks, but it's not like millions. And so I was like, yes, but we've got to go. And so he's like, okay, let's go. We'll do the drive. We'll pay for the hotel. And then when I did that, I was now in the room with Mr. Tanner. I was now in the room with Mark Riches. I was now in the room with all of those leaders and executive directors who really knew how to tell people and what they needed to hear to get them consistently to ED, because I wasn't going to stay ED with just those kind of bonuses being popped up and those incentives. I needed to become an executive director so you can hit ED and get some fast cash from some of the incentives. But if you want to become an executive director in season and out of season, you then have to get into the rooms to actually learn how to grow to become an executive director. And then you're able to navigate what it is to be an executive director on your own. And so I knew that. I believed it when Jim Tanner said it. And so it didn't matter where Cookeville, Tennessee was. I never heard of Cookeville, but if that's where those guys were going to be, I looked it up on a map. I realized what highways connected to what, and I got there. And was it a little scary financially? Yeah, it was. But let me tell you, what I got out of that has paid me so much money and has given me so much freedom just being into that room. Those are the decisions of life that you make where you're like, I'm going to do it and I'm going to do it scared, right? Your brain, your central nervous system is telling you you're crazy for going down and making the sacrifice of going down to Cookeville. But your heart is telling you, if you're going to be run by fear of where am I going to get my next dollar to do X, Y, and Z, if you're going to be run that way, then the situation of my wife waiting tables with us having 3, that'll never change. And I was around a lot of people who were financially in the same position one year as they were the 10th year and the 20th year. I didn't want to be that person anymore. And so I knew that if I went into the room and got there and sacrificed, that I would change. And as a result, my income would change. And then I would have more choices for not only myself, my wife, and now our 5 children. So thank you so much, Jim. I hope to see all of you on the Zoom down here in Cookeville, Tennessee. I promise you it'll change who you are. And when that happens, your bank account will change as well.
Dr. Corley and Bethany, thank you both so much. Appreciate you, man. That's what I'm talking about, right? The real people, real results, real success. All right, so let's wrap up our event tonight. All right, here, up until now, we've been talking about qualifying for Performance Club. Now I want to show you why Performance Club matters so much. For many people, Performance Club is the destination. For successful leaders, though, it's the starting point. Performance Club creates monthly consistency. We talked about that, right? Monthly consistency creates team consistency. Team consistency creates organizational premium, and organizational premium creates leadership opportunities. And leadership opportunities create leverage. Leverage creates overrides. Overrides create financial freedom. So that means Performance Club isn't the finish line. It's the first step on a much larger journey. And what does that mean? It means that this is core and central to everything. And I'm going to share with you tonight just how it creates the environment. Again, we talked about how it aligns everybody's interests. How does it set you free, though? How does it give you success? Because remember I said earlier that while it seems like such a small piece of the puzzle, it ends up being central to the whole business. And so let's talk about let's dig in the next few minutes that we have together and talk about executive director. Which, by the way, Chris and Bethany Corley were talking about the executive director bonus. The Dream Bigger bonuses, we have them right now too. Those of you that have never been executive directors before, you can pick up thousands of extra dollars by executive director qualifying for 3 or more months consistently. and even more money by helping someone on your team do the same. So executive director is important because it represents a different way of thinking about the business. It's the big money part of our business. And also, because that's what we talk about here on Thursday nights, is creating leverage. Most people think in terms of their own production. That's what when I got started in this business, I was just calculating like how many memberships do I need to sign up to pay a bill? How many memberships do I need to sign up to fix my car? How many memberships do I need to get a new car? Like that was, I was focused on my own production. But executive directors think in terms of organizational production. The qualification of you and your organization for you to executive director qualify every month is $1,500 in organizational premium. Now, someone's going to say in the chat, Jim, it's $1,400. It has been, but because of our premiums changing, starting next month, it's 15. So I don't want there to be any confusion. Let's work off of 15. And by the way, 15 is not some magical number. Most of you are going to blow by this. It's going to be 25, 35, 45, 5,500 every month, 10,000 a month. But 1,500 is what qualifies you for executive director. And at first, I know I said all these bigger numbers, but I'll bet that 1,500 for some of you is intimidating. But what I've learned over the years is that executive director isn't built by one person doing extraordinary things. That's not the way to set a strategy to be an executive director. It's built by a group of people doing ordinary things consistently. That's what makes performance clubs so powerful. It creates the exact behavior patterns that eventually produce the organizational premium needed for you to executive director qualify every month. This may be the most important idea of the entire evening. And this is something that has been taught to me since I got started 22 years ago. Most associates believe they need to personally create all the production necessary to reach executive director. And why is that? Well, because we have group and we have the ability for you could go do that. There's some of you that are watching tonight, you're like, I want to go do group. Great. Then you can go sign up $1,500 a month in personal premium. And everybody will be excited for you. We'll cheer you on. But you'll have to do it the next month and the next month and the next month. So when we're here talking about leverage on Thursday nights, I just say that's not the promise of our model. The real secret is that a large group of people doing a little consistently always outperforms one person trying to do it all alone. And I'm telling you, I tried to do it by myself. And my team, once I started building a team, my team has done things I could have never dreamed of doing on my own. Team, well, let's say this, Performance Club creates that consistency we're talking about. But Team Performance Club creates organizational premium. So all of their production gathered together creates the minimum production you need for executive director every month. Think about how remarkable that is. The company's literally paying people throughout your organization and mine to do the exact activity that helps create the organizational premium required for you to qualify as an executive director. It's one of the most brilliant aspects of our entire system. And I know that the way I just said that, I heard it, and I know that you don't know what I mean. So let me just say it one more time. Let's say, here's another way for you to learn it. Let's say that instead of Performance Club being a real thing, you sat down today and you said, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pay everybody in my team $200 a month if they produce 3 or 4 memberships a month, because that way my 10 people on my month becomes 40 sales, and that's enough for me to be an executive director. So I'm going to offer each one of them $200 a month. That would be that'd be brilliant. I'd say you're brilliant, but you'd be the one writing those checks for $200 a month. The company is saying that on your behalf. They'll pay each person in your team $200 a month, then $400 a month, then $500 a month. And then just to get them to do a little bit more, they'll fly them somewhere once a year. They'll do that for every member of your team, and they'll write the check, and you don't have to spend a dime on it, but it benefits your business dramatically. That's what Performance Club is if you think like a builder, beyond just being in Performance Club yourself. The company, again, is literally paying people throughout your organization to do the exact activities that create the organizational premium required for you to be an executive director. It's brilliant. And if I would never pretend that I understood that on day one. I did not. I knew that there was advantages to me being in it. I knew that there was a check. I knew there was a trip. I wanted to go on the trip. I didn't want to be left behind. But I had no idea how the compound effect of getting a team in a performance club changed everything. Because here's what happens. Write this in your notes. Your team, their consistency becomes your leverage. When you help others qualify, you change your own future. The first time you qualify for a performance club, you change your income. The first time someone on your team qualifies for a performance club, you begin changing your future. This is where leadership begins. And leadership isn't about titles. Leadership is about helping other people win. When you help people develop the habit of consistent qualification, you're helping them earn a bonus every month, qualify for trips. I got a whole bunch of my team. I wish I was with them, but they're enjoying the Dominican Republic right now. They would never miss Performance Club because they're having the time of their life. They get a check every month. They're not going to miss Performance Club. That's why I'm an executive director every month. Not because of what I did today. It's because I set in motion a culture of Performance Club in my team. And while my team is winning and partying and cashing checks, they don't ever want to miss Performance Club. That drives the leverage that changed my life. When you help people develop the habit of consistent qualification, they're earning bonuses, they're qualifying for trips. It builds their confidence. It creates in your team momentum. And at the same time, you're galvanizing that organization. You're building a real team. We throw that word around, but when you get a group of people in your business, your organization, and they're getting a check every month for Performance Club, they're going on a trip every year together, they're hanging out together, they're hitting milestones together. That's a team. And great leaders don't simply qualify themselves. Great leaders create culture of qualification. So I want to make sure that you understand that. And what does it change? It changes everything. I'll just show you this real quick. I'm not going to do a whole training on it, but when I do on Monday nights, when we do the showcase event, we show the commission structure, right? And we talk about the bonuses when you get started. And that's a great bonus for fast start qualifying. If you get right to work in the beginning, there's $600 that our newest associates can pick up right away. And that's its own training, helping people get fast start qualified. But just think about the dollars that are in this compensation plan, starting at $82 per referral. And I'm doing the example is the preferred legal plan with ID Shield for a family. 82, 103, pick up that $200, keep going to manager, 136, pick up that $400, pick up $600 in bonuses, great. But then you just keep going. The point is that as people in your team are Performance Club qualifying every calendar month, they're moving up the compensation plan. Senior manager, director. As your team is doing this, they're pushing you up the compensation plan as well. They're pushing you to senior director, qualifying you for executive director every month. Now you're earning $427 as an executive director on every membership you sign up in this combo plan. If you just sign up 10 a month, you see me do this every Monday. Hopefully you're with me. That's over 50 grand a year. 10 families a month. Who has to quit their job or change their career or move or rent an office or hang a sign for 10 memberships a month? Nobody. That's the magic of our model. You get to build this thing around your already busy, hectic life. 10 times a month, someone gets a membership because you told them about it, because you did 2 exposures a day, 2 exposures a day, 2 exposures a day. We don't need all 60 of those people to sign up. We'll get 10. You'll probably get more, but let's just get 10 out of those 60. But what people try to do is talk to 2 people, the same 2 people over and over again until they sign them up, and then they're going to move on to 2 more people. But what if you just did 2 today, 2 tomorrow, 2 the next day, and then you followed up properly, and at the end of the month, you had shown it to 60, and you signed up 10, that's $50,000 a year as an executive director. And what's your team doing? They're over there, they're earning income too, but they're throwing off overrides for you. $21 per plan, $33, $47, $70, up to $345 per plan. Folks, that's the power of this leverage piece of our business. They're qualifying for Performance Club every month, so they're doing production. They're earning commissions while they're earning bonuses. They're creating organizational premium to qualify you as an executive director. They're throwing off overrides to you because of their production. And by the way, overrides don't come out of their money. It's a separate bucket. It's a separate line item on the balance sheet at the home office. Every membership they sign up, they're getting paid their personal income. And the company is thanking you by paying you team overrides because you're the leader. What makes you the leader? Because you know the way, you go the way, and you show the way. And how do you know you're the leader? You're here tonight. I'm gonna finish with that. And then the company, on top of that $200 a month, $400 a month, $500 a month. You know, I used to have a second job at a GNC store in the mall at night because I couldn't pay my bills delivering furniture during the day. I would take off one polo shirt from my job delivering furniture, put on a different one that said GNC, and go and close a store in the mall every night that they would let me to make extra money to try to pay my bills at 28 years old. And that second job at the store in the mall at night did not pay me an extra $6,000 a year. But this one bonus from the LegalShield bonuses called Performance Club does. That's a radical transformation. And then on top of that, what we haven't talked about yet is matching bonuses. As the senior director or above, when your associates that are in year 1 and year 2 of Performance Club and they're picking up a $200 or $400 a month check, the company is matching that back to you as the senior director. So if you have 4 people in your team and they're each getting a $200 Performance Club check, you're getting 200 plus 200 plus 200 plus 200 as a match. This is on top of your Performance Club check. What if you had 10 people that were getting the $400 check? You're getting $4,000 more. We have folks right now. Here's Brian and Melissa Carruthers on your screen. We've got top earners earning $5,000, $10,000 a month matching bonuses. This is one of the most exciting developments we've seen in recent years because historically, this just happened starting in April coming out of convention, these matches. Historically, leaders focused on building organizational premium, obviously, right? Then developing executive directors, of course, because that grows your overrides. Now the company's added this other powerful incentive. So again, some people are earning thousands of dollars just in matching Performance Club bonuses. And they're not earning that money because they personally sold more plans or worked more hours. They're earning it because they built a culture where people consistently qualify. What does that mean? It means the company is rewarding leadership. The company is rewarding duplication. The company is rewarding people who help other people succeed. Now, I'm about to wrap up, but just let's go back to the chat and just let me know if you're with me. Just give me a 1 in the chat if this has been valuable to you so far. I know we lost some folks and not everybody could hang for more, but just give me a 1 in the chat if you think this has been worth your evening so far. I'm seeing some ones. And I just want you to, and put a 1 in the chat. Maybe if you learned something tonight about Performance Club, maybe the technical about how to earn points, maybe the cash bonuses or the trip you didn't even understand. Maybe you finally, for the first time, understand why it's so important to everybody at the company that does understand it. I'm seeing some 1s. So let's talk about one other thing. From a leadership perspective, I wanted to include these slides as I wrapped up. And what I wanted to talk about was this. LegalShield Advantage. So in our team, this is a very unique conversation. I'm going to have it quick, but it's appropriate for us to have it. So I didn't want to not have it. So here's the quick conversation about LegalShield Advantage. LegalShield Advantage is a program that our company provides to all associates. It involves incentives, recognition, digital marketing tools, and other things. I'm going to show you what it is in a second. But outside of Success Team, it makes pure total sense why an associate would want the digital marketing tools. And what I hear when I talk to people outside of our team is they would never live their lives without LegalShield Advantage. And the $24.95 a month overhead to run their business with this additional line item is totally worth it. And by the way, I agree, because there's no business in the world you can run for $24.95 a month. I mean, just think about what the company doesn't charge us for credit card processing fees. My team has written $1.4 million in monthly premium. I've never paid any credit card processing fees on any of those dollars. any fees to banks, any of that. That's all just taken care of in the background. But for $24.95 a month, I do have Legal Shield Advantage because, in addition to the digital tools, this is what I wanted to talk about. The digital tools that the company provides, our team actually provides similar, because we've always provided them to our team. It's just been our culture to provide for you the membership overview website with Melissa Peters doing the presentation, a button where people can click and enroll right there on the screen, recruiting funnels and videos, all this stuff that makes our team have a competitive advantage. We've always provided those at no cost. Now we have a TMS, which is like a CRM that has a small monthly fee because we have, frankly, a big monthly fee to provide it to the team. So everybody pitches in on that. But outside of our team, nobody else has any of the tools that I just talked about. They're success team only tools. And so they need the digital marketing tools that come from Legal Shield Advantage. You and I might look at this and say, we don't need any of that because our team provides all of that for us, which means that it's important for you to understand that incentives, all these bonus dollars, are also part of Legal Shield Advantage, which means that if you intend to collect the $200, $400, $500 a month in Performance Club checks, if you want to build a team where you're getting matching bonuses, then you need to understand that that's included in Legal Shield Advantage. So you're going to want to keep Legal Shield Advantage. Do you necessarily need the websites that the company provides? Probably not. But I'll say this: as you build a bigger team, some of the tools will become very valuable to you that the company provides as part of that digital marketing package. And I bring that up because one of the things you should be aware of is as you have people on your team that are doing very little. Like I have people in my team that are pastors and teachers, for example, and they're not necessarily trying to change careers or even really that focused on building a Legal Shield business, but they love their membership. They paid the one-time $99 associate fee because they want to have the ability to recommend the services to other people and earn income. They don't necessarily focus on Performance Club qualifying. They don't necessarily come to all of our events or anything like that. So for that group of people, I always recommend for them to turn off Legal Shield Advantage because they don't need the extra expense because they're not going to qualify for the bonuses just once in a while signing up a member here and there. For the rest of us, though, if the only reason that you had Legal Shield Advantage was to make sure that you got paid your bonuses, it would be worth it, right? Because the minimum Performance Club bonus per month is $200. And so the $24.95, even though you might not need the website because we provide that, and you might not need some other things in the early days because you're still building your business, it's still worth having it. So you just make that best decision on your own. Also, if you're brand new, you get it for free in the first 30 days. So while you're fast start qualifying, while your manager qualifying in those first 30 days, you already have it for free. So you're qualifying for those incentive dollars anyway. If you have any other questions about that, because I'm going to move on, you can talk to your sponsor directly. But I just want to make sure that that was covered tonight because I am talking about these bonus dollars. And I want to make sure that everybody understands the difference between having and not having Legal Shield Advantage when you're in Success Team and you're being provided websites at no cost by the team as well. Food for thought as I wrap up. You can't be serious about financial freedom and casual about Performance Club. I think I made that case here tonight because the habit creates everything else. So throughout tonight, we talked about bonuses, trips, matching bonuses, executive director, leadership overrides, even really Millionaire Club. And Millionaire Club is important, right? Because if you start qualifying for executive director every month with a team behind you qualifying for executive director, I believe you're on your way to earning $100,000 or more per year every year. That means in 10 years or less, you could become a Millionaire Club member because you've earned at least $1 million in your business. And I think that's powerful because delivering furniture, I've done the math. Delivering furniture, working at a GNC store in the mall, it would have taken me 48 years to make $1 million doing that. So for me, this has been better. And I think that you'll find as you get into a rhythm, this is better. I think it is better. Because also during the time I earned that first $1 million, I got to see my kid grow up. I dropped her off at school every day, picked her up every afternoon. I got to make decisions that a lot of families don't get to make because of the power of both financial and time freedom that comes from a business you operate from your home. where you're the boss and you decide and you make your schedule. So it's not just the income, it's the way you earn it that matters. But the real lesson is that the habit creates everything else. And I want to make sure that I leave with that the way I started with it. Most people chase outcomes. Successful people build habits. So if you build the habit, the outcomes eventually follow. So we talked a lot about the bonuses, but don't become obsessed with the bonus. Don't become obsessed with going on the trip. Don't become obsessed with the next title like ring level. Fall in love with the process. Fall in love with consistency, because the habit creates opportunities that you can't even see yet. So let's close with, what are the steps? Number one, commit to plugging into our universe. Stay close to the fire, we like to say. Be on our Monday and Thursday Zoom meetings. And if you can't be with us live, catch the replay. I love when people can join us live. I also understand that those events don't happen around the best times for every person, but that we record every event. So put it on your calendar to join us live. And if you know you're not going to be able to, put it on your calendar to watch the replay. But commit to plugging into those events, either live or recorded. Number two, we talked about this early on and a lot. Commit to using your membership. You've got a service that millions of people love. During COVID, I remember thinking, I don't know if people are going to keep this, what's going to happen. When that whole COVID thing happened, everything was shutting down. You know what happened? Record retention. Highest levels of retention in company history. In my team, same thing, record retention. Turns out during a global pandemic, during uncertain times, and that's been different economies, different politics, whatever, but especially COVID, when people have uncertainty in their lives, they don't cancel their LegalShield membership because they respect what it means to have that during uncertainty. From the time that I was 18 years old when I first got my membership, almost 19, to 28 years old, I was broke that whole time. I was behind on every bill, including my LegalShield membership plenty of times, but I never canceled it because it was so profound what it had done for me. And I didn't have money. And I couldn't imagine navigating life with no money and without LegalShield. See, I understood the value. I prioritized it, even when I was behind on every promise. Commit to using your membership. Commit to 2 exposures per day, no matter what. Because as James Clear says in Atomic Habits, it becomes your identity. You are able to put upon yourself and look in the mirror as with the identity of someone that gets it done. And that's the work that we do. Number 4, follow up like a professional. Not every person we show it to is going to sign up, but a lot of the people we show it to would sign up if we followed up. And you know how I know that? Because I talk to people where it's the first time I'm talking to them, but a friend showed it to them the month before, the year before, 2 years before, and never followed up. I had a lady walk up to me at the airport. Now, this doesn't happen all the time. I had a LegalShield polo shirt on. I was heading out to a Super Saturday in Washington State. I was at the airport, Boston Logan. Lady walked up to me at the airport. She said, "You're the LegalShield guy." I said, "Yes, I am." She said, "I need to get a membership. Someone showed this to me and they never got back to me." And I signed her up before we got on the plane. Follow up like a professional. Because if you don't follow up, somebody else will. And you know what's even worse? Is if nobody else does. That person doesn't get access to justice. That person doesn't get access to their rights. They don't get a voice. They don't get advocates and experts that will help them. Number 5, ask for referrals from everyone. If they say yes, write them up, ask for a referral. If they say no, understand, ask for a referral. Every person we know knows somebody we can help. They know someone that is a responsible gun owner and needs our plan. They know a commercial driver that needs our plan. They know a business owner that's struggling in silence and needs our plan. Everybody we know knows someone we can help. And number 6, duplicate. Duplicate your commitments, the 1 through 5 above, in your organization. Get your team plugged into our Monday and Thursday Zoom meetings. Get your team using their membership. Get your team committed to 2 exposures per day, no matter what. Can you imagine what will happen when it's not just you doing 2 exposures a day, but 10 people on your team? 10 people on your team doing 2 a day is 20 a day plus your 2. That's 22. You're still doing 2, but now your team is doing 22 exposures a day. What if your team was doing 200 exposures a day, 400 exposures a day, 1,000 exposures a day? That's what duplication is. Commit your team to following up like a professional. Become one and teach them how to do it. Teach your team how to ask for referrals from the yeses. Ask for referrals from the nos. Teach your team that we can help everybody that somebody else knows. And teach them to duplicate the same thing, and it will just keep growing away from you, across your state, across the map, to time zones, to places you have never visited, to people that you've never met, as you continue to impact people. Because as we close tonight, I want you to really understand this isn't about 1 month. It isn't even about this month or next month. It's about who you become over time. Every membership matters because every family matters. Every associate matters because every person has potential. Every month matters because every month is another opportunity to build momentum. Harlan Stone Cipher started a mission that changed lives. And we have the opportunity to continue that mission every single day, whether you're brand new, whether you've qualified for a performance club before, or whether you've been qualifying for years. My challenge to you is simple. Commit to the habit. 2 exposures a day, 1 month at a time, 1 family at a time, 1 performance club qualification at a time. That's how careers are built. That's how leaders are developed. And that's how lives are changed. Performance Club isn't where success ends. It's where success begins, because, ladies and gentlemen, finally, what we do matters, and it is important, noble work. And I can't imagine doing it with any other group of people. Thank you so much for joining me, to the folks that lended their voice, and for all of you for participating in this very special Thursday evening. The Zoom is over, but I think you'd agree that our work is far from done. Good night, everybody.